This will be a bit of another vlog style video, but there's going to be some reflective advice in here that you may be able to take and apply to yourself as I'm applying it to myself as well. So really, I think deep down, all of us are aware that some of our ideas are incorrect. I don't know of anybody who would say otherwise. I don't know of anybody who, if asked the question, would say, no, yeah, like all of my ideas are correct. Now, I think everybody is willing to admit that some of what they say is incorrect. But despite that, people still will kind of make a statement in that manner to kind of like show a sense of humility. Like, oh yeah, they'll say, obviously, not everything I say is correct. And I think precisely because everybody is already aware of that and already willing to admit that, it kind of turns into a false show of humility. It's not really like a genuine sense of humility. Because I think if we were really to genuinely look within ourselves, we would find that it's not just the case that some of our ideas are incorrect. No, it's actually that a majority of them are. A majority of our ideas are incorrect. Now, does that mean that that's perpetual? Does it like always need to be the case that we keep going through this cycle where no matter whatever ideas, like new ideas we gain or new changes we go through and other ideas we throw out, like just no matter what, there's always going to be this revolving door of ideas in which the majority of them are incorrect? No, that does not need to be the case. I think there is a process under which we can throw out the majority of incorrect ideas, in the sense that maybe there's a lot of topics that we have very strong opinions about, whereas if we instead threw out those opinions and admitted that we're not well informed enough on those topics, and so whenever we're asked a question about one of those topics, we simply answer, I don't know. Okay, you cannot say that a person is incorrect for saying they don't know. If you say, I don't know, you are no longer incorrect about that topic. You are admitting that you have more there to look into. You are not informed enough yet. You have more to learn, more to improve on. And there's nothing about that which is incorrect. So if you can find the majority of topics on which you are making strong opinionated statements that are not informed enough, if you look at all those and instead change your answer to I don't know, then that majority of topics of which you were formerly incorrect on, you would now no longer be incorrect on. And so now it would no longer be the case that a majority of your ideas are incorrect. Instead, you would know the specific niche or set of ideas or set of topics upon which you are correct and which you are warranted in making assertive statements about. And you would also know the other topics or other ideas upon which you are not warranted in making assertive statements about. So if you only make assertive statements on this niche set of topics and don't make any assertive statements on any others, well then now it's not that a majority of your ideas are incorrect, and now actually a majority of them, or maybe even all of them, are correct. Now this does not mean that you'll know like every fact. You're not going to be omniscient, because there's still going to be all sorts of other topics for you to improve your understanding of and learn more about and become more well-informed on, and so on and so forth. So far from it, you're not going to be anywhere close to knowing everything. But you don't have to know every single fact in order for a majority of your ideas or even all of your ideas to be correct. You simply have to know which topics and which ideas you are warranted on making assertive statements about. As long as you know that, you can then throw out everything else, say I don't know or you don't know on everything else, say you have more to improve on with everything else, and by default, you're no longer going to be incorrect a majority of the time. You're going to be correct a majority of the time, or even all the time, because every other time you'll just be saying you don't know, or you have more work to do, or so on and so forth. So there is a way to change this fact of ourselves, this very human fact that we are incorrect a majority of the time. There's a process to go through to change that. Now, I'm not going to get into that process here in this video. This is, a general direction that I'm thinking on moving in with my channel, but I really got to figure out what exactly that's going to look like. So it's not going to be boiled down here in this video. But it is a process that I have been going through myself within the past year or more. Really, the start of that process was the reason why I restarted my YouTube channel. I threw out a lot of my ideas, and I've kept throwing out more and more and more throughout this past year. I've thrown out a majority of them. Not just a majority of my ideas, but a majority of categories of ideas. And I've only kept, depends on how you categorize them. Like if we want to talk about, let's say, novel or original ideas or categories, I've kept 4 categories. If novelty or originality doesn't count, then you could say maybe 5 general categories. There's really different ways to categorize this. I mean, we could talk about like your original ideas or the ideas you've thought of independently on your own, even if somebody else had already thought of them first. So like they're independent even though they're unoriginal, or just ideas overall. Really what I'm talking about here in this video are like the original or novel categories of ideas that I've kept. And there's 4 of those. And then if you want to talk about like independent ones, even if they're unoriginal, then you could say I've kept 5 such categories. Now I've been fortunate enough to the extent that 3 of the categories I've kept are 3 of my craziest categories. They're 3 of my most radical ones. So I've been blessed enough to have that, but that is not a typical experience. In terms of the conversations I've had with, all sorts of professionals like professors and academics and psychologists, psychiatrists, so on and so forth. Like I said, I've been getting myself kind of psychologically analyzed as well. In terms of all the discussions I've had along those lines, from what I've heard, undergoing this process and then afterwards having 4 or 5 categories left standing is, how do I say this without being narcissistic? I'm trying to put this as modestly as possible, but keeping 4 or 5 is, it's rare. It is not a common experience. Many people will throw out a majority of their stuff, of their ideas, and they'll maybe keep 1 or 2. But 1 is still valuable. I mean, that's your gem, that's your niche. That's how you find what your niche is in life. What are you supposed to do in your life? What's the healthiest way to think? What's your strongest idea or set of ideas or set of stuff besides ideas, because those 3 radical categories of mine, I mean, what they include can't even really be called ideas. They're more like quote unquote ideas, for lack of better terms, because they're more like mystical schmystical and all that. But whatever the categories are, like, okay, so maybe you keep 1 idea or 1 category of something, that's still your niche. That's valuable. That's your gem. So don't be afraid to let the floodgates open and let the waters wash away whatever is unneeded, because whatever is left standing, that's the gem you get to keep. Like I myself have actually felt better since I've found these 4 or 5 categories. Like the fact that I get to keep my 3 biggest, craziest, most radical, most insane ones, like I've been very happy about that. I've kind of just had this attitude of screw the rest. Like I don't need ghosts and demons and time travel and all the other crazy stuff that I've talked about in the past, because I've been lucky enough to have my 3 biggest ones stay, because they've got authentic, academically rigorous foundations, which is also something I can talk about more on this channel. Because one of those crazy categories pertains to topics that I talk about here on this channel, like the mystical and trivial and ad hoc and beyond stuff and upaya stuff. The other 2 of the 3 crazy categories, those pertain more to my savant skill. So as I said in my last video, the topics on this channel are foundational to those savant topics, but the savant topics themselves are very different. They're in a league of their own, and 2 of the categories pertain to them. The 4th category isn't really anything mystical. It's more scientific. It's not really even that big of a category. It's really almost just more like its own single idea, not anything huge. But yeah, so I've been very grateful to keep those, and hopefully, I mean, with anyone who undergoes this process, even if you decide to kind of really analyze yourself and be more self-aware in this way over, what your niche is, trying to find what that niche of yours is, hopefully you have the same sort of experience, that whatever gem is left in the rock, whatever you find to be there, it's like, okay, I'm happy with that. You'll be happy with what stays, what survives the flood. Everything else, like, okay, I had to throw all that out, but so what? I'm happy with this. And so I'm happy to say, I don't know, to everything else. I'm happy to learn more about everything else and not make such unwarranted strong statements on everything else. And I mean, there are some people out there who don't even necessarily need to undergo this process. There are lots of people who just naturally are good at saying they don't know whenever a topic comes up that they don't know much about. So, I mean, some of you watching this video may not even need to undergo the process. Like, I should not arrogantly assume that just because I had to undergo it, in my own personal life, this Ethan life, if you want to call it, that I should not automatically assume that that means you need to undergo it. But that's why I stated back at the beginning that, yeah, okay, this is a vlog style video, but maybe for some of you, there's some potentially reflective advice here. But, it might not be the case that all of you need it. There might be some of you watching this who already are naturally good at this. This is just something I've kind of found myself improving on as I've dialed in further to this life of Ethan's, as I say it, given my condition, talking in, that sort of independent third person fashion. But yeah, something to improve on here personally in this life. So maybe you don't need it, but if you do, it could be helpful. So yeah, like really try to figure out which of your ideas or stuff in general stands on strong foundations. And again, I'll be discussing that more in the future, in future videos, maybe like going through the methods or the process that I went through, hopefully in ways that could help you as well, so that it's not just so conformed to me, a little bit more diverse, hopefully. But I really have to figure out how to move forward with that, because honestly, I'm not quite sure yet what the packaged deal is going to look like. And I'm not saying packaged deal because it's going to be like something worth money or something that I'm going to put a price on. No, like I'll still just do it for free. But trying to figure out what exactly it's going to look like when it's all packaged up, because I've already been, I guess, kind of engaging with topics in this way, and people who have interacted with me more one-on-one, like through social media or on Discord, etc., they've already kind of seen what this new change in my approach looks like. So any of you who interact with me in that way, this is no mystery to you. You already have some sense of what this new approach is going to look like in the future. But I still have to figure out what the packaged up version of that approach is going to be for like a public audience. And I still don't have the answer to that yet. So maybe some of you have seen like the prototype form of it, but I still got to figure out the fully packaged up public audience form. I still don't quite know what that's going to look like, but we'll see in the future. Anyways, hopefully this is solid enough for now. Maybe something for you to go off of for yourself as I reflect on it for myself, and use that to create a nice day. I'll see you all next time.